Hello guys and welcome back. So to finalize this, what we're going to do is to create a background, and then we're also going to create a nice little shadow for our animation. So let's start with the background. So for the background, I'll just use a flat color. So I'll create a vector level and hit OK. I'll make sure this is at the bottom. So I'll just click on that and drag that to the bottom. I'll call that BG, and I'm going to hold it for the entire frame. I just realized there's a better way of doing this. I can just set the color of the camera to a specific color since I'm not going to use any background texture. So I'll still show you this method and I'll show you the camera method. So first, let's zoom out and have the whole picture frame. I'll click on the first column and go to the geometry tool. Click on the rectangle and just draw a nice little rectangle like that. And now I'll just pick a color. I'll pick this bright blue like that towards cyan. Yeah, I think that's cool. So the RGB value is 138, 190, 235. 138, 190, 235. 138, 190, 235. Okay, good. You've gotten the message. So I'll go here and click fill and fill this up. Now it's looking super weird, but what we can do is just change the background to any color that we feel is suitable. And I think I like this nice little neutral color like that. And that's it. We've created a background. If we don't want to use this, I'll turn that off. We could just go to the X sheet, scene settings, and here where it says camera background color, double click on that, and we could just find something soothing like that as well also. So I like this as well. That's not too bad. I like this one as well. I like this pink. Yeah, that looks very nice. But the cool thing with using this is that we can create a gradient using this vector background level. So let's set everything to the default color, which is white, and I'll click that. So let's bring this back. And what we can do is to make a gradient out of this. So let's quickly close our palettes and go to this guy and go to vector this time around and look for where it says gradient. Let's click on this. And I can see we have a green, ugly gradient. That's not really cute. So let's go to color. And here we can select the main colors. So this green, I'll just select something like that and move that towards yellow. Like that, you can see how we have a nice little smooth transition. We're not there yet. What we're going to do is go to settings and we can change the angle. Right, so this makes it look like there's a little ground here. And what I want to set this to is 90 degrees. Great. So looks like we have a nice little ground. What we can do is change the Y position. So here we can drag it lower or we could just drag it upward. I like it there. And the smoothness is going to blend that with the background. You see, that's so smooth. And that's too harsh, so I'll just leave it at this point. And there we have a nice little background with a vector level. What we're going to do next is to create the shadows. So to create the shadows, I'll create a new vector level and hit OK. I'll double click on that and I'll call that shadow and just hit the return key. Now I'm going to create an ellipse for the I and the H just to add a little shadow here. So I'll go to the geometry tool, click here and click on ellipse, and I'll just draw a nice little ellipse like that. I'll select it, use the selection tool and just drag this up a little bit like that. And what I'm going to do is to fill this with a color. So I'll set the fill, go to click fill and set the fill to lines and areas. And here what we're going to do is just look for, let's go to color. Let's look for something quite dark actually, but we'll play around with the opacity. And I'll just click on that just to fill that. And now I'll drag the opacity of that column to say something like this value here. So I'll go to lines. Let's set this to, let's bring this back to 100. 100 like so. I'll go to lines and make sure this is also working on lines and areas. So I have that little shadow, and what I'll do is to copy that shadow. So I'll go here, Control CV, and I'll just move that shadow over here to our eye shape, and I'll just drag it and make it quite smaller, like that. Place this here as well. And for this, I'll make this slightly smaller and place that there. And what we can do is to dial that brightness down like that. So we have a little light source coming in from a different direction, and you can actually see we have a little shadow showing here. If I move this frame, the shadow is going to disappear. So what I'm going to do is to select this shadow and then hold this shadow for the entire frame. You don't need to add the shadow, but just adds a nice little effect like that, which is totally awesome. I like how the shadows are actually coming out. We can go to our background, go to our settings, and try to dial back the smoothness a little bit and move the white position slightly higher so that we just have that effect. Now, what I also noticed is that our layer here is a bit, our drawing layer, let's go to the writing layer, it's a bit faint, right? So how do we darken that? It's a bit faint. We can do that by adding effects. So let's go to the schematic. We called it writing, so let's go to our writing like that. And let's click on writing and let's add an effect. Here I'm going to go to layer blending and I'm going to use multiply. And let's just drag this here. Now let's put this on the X sheet. To see the effect, let's turn on rendering. And you can see with multiply, we have our layer actually quite dark. So let's go back to the drawing and do the same magic. Hit our render tool. Now you can see we have much darker shadows like that. But it's affecting everything. I don't want it to affect the entire thing. I just want it to affect our drawing layer. So let's go back to schematic. And see if we could disconnect that. I'll do this. And now we're changing this. Let's just leave it at that to keep our just effects simple. So what we can do is go back to our drawing, and next we can now dial it down a bit like that. So we have little of that effect. So now to see the whole thing, let's just render the whole clip using that little effect. And it's going to take a little while to render, and that's how that's going to look. So I'll quickly show you how you can export this animation as an MP3. Oh, there you go. It's saying hi to everyone. Hello. So let's see how to export this as a GIF. So here, let's go to render and go to the output settings and click down here. Click this drop down, click MP4, go to the options. Let's set it to 100 because we want high quality, and we'll click render. We're rendering from frame 1 to frame 24, and that's our end. It's frame 24, so everything seems good. And let's hit render. So we're going to render an MP4 and a JPEG and a GIF, sorry. So over here, let's click on this and scroll down till we find GIF. There it is. GIF, check the options, it's good, set it to looping, awesome, hit render. So it's going to be called 200 in our handwriting project. So let's go to the location where this object is. Alright, that's good, it's rendered. So I'll just open up the drive where I have most of these. So I'll just say open tunes stuff. Go to projects, go to handwriting, go to the outputs, and if I make this large, we can actually see our GIF. So I'll just double click our GIF, and hopefully it's going to open up using the image viewer. So I'll just click on the image viewer and hi. So this is you saying hi to that lady you had a crush on. Or we could just click on the MP4. This should open up a player and you can see this. So what you can do is to take it into a software like CapCut and add some nice little music and nice effects, which we'll do in the next video.